If you are all looking at the direction of your screen right now, you can clearly see that I'm going to break down UFC 308. As you can see, I won some money here. That's my overall profits for the year. I only started UFC Paris, so not too bad to be honest. Anyway, moving up. Starting with a massive robbery, one of the biggest robberies of the year. One of the biggest robberies that I've ever seen. I thought Carlos Leal won all 3 rounds, but Rinat Fakretdinov looked not the best to be honest. I think his massive wrestling advantage that he had, he wasn't able to implement. It. He couldn't take down Carlos Leal down, and the majority of the control that he did end up showing us wasn't just pushing Carlos Leal against the cage and just not being able to do much to be honest. He was losing on the feet, couldn't dominate in the grappling. Carlos Leal was landing some really good calf kicks, some good strikes here and there. And overall, I thought he won all 3 rounds. I think one of the judges had, I think all three judges ended up giving Rinat the 3rd round, but honestly, I thought, it was close, but I thought Carlos Leal took that one as well. Rinat Fakretdinov is one of the most 50-50 fighters, I think, in the UFC right now. Like, he can go out there and dominate Bayern battle. He can also go out there and KO Kevin Lee. But then there's other times where he goes to a draw. There are other times where he just doesn't look nearly as good as he should, in my opinion. Like, to me, he was like a guy that I could see being in the top 15. But now, I'm like, I think most of the people in top 15 probably beat him. Maybe like Neil Magny loses, but even Neil Magny, I mean, he'll beat Neil Magny because anyone could beat Neil Magny, but I just don't think he's a top 15 level fighter, to be honest. And that's weird. I think if you have good wrestling takedown defense, you can probably destroy Rinat Fakretdinov on the feet. And maybe a better fighter with more power in their hands could probably KO him as well. He ain't all that in my opinion. Kind of exposed, to be honest. Massive robbery. They're in the Middle East. They don't want to start the crowd off by having the crowd favorite lose. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they want the Muslim fella to win with the beard and everything. So, yeah, they just rob it for him. If it's any close fight tonight, it was probably going to go to the Muslim/Russian/Middle Eastern fighter. Let's be honest here. I had him winning, but I had no money on it, so no real emotional attachment to this fight. I just thought he clearly lost. Bruno Silva versus Ismail Naurdiev. Bruno Silva is washed beyond belief. I thought he could still pull back the cock a little bit and win the fight here. I thought his striking is actually quite good, and I thought if anything in the fight would stay the same is the fact that Bruno Silva has okay takedown defense, and the fact that his striking is good enough to compete with the best fighters in the middleweight division. Apparently, Ismail, I mean, he did stuff some takedowns from Ismail, but Ismail for the most part was able to control Bruno Silva, do what he does, and honestly, Bruno Silva probably isn't, like, there's not much to say. It wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but Ismail, I thought Ismail looked alright, but he did lose 2 of his last 3 fights before this one to non-UFC level competition. Bruno Silva probably isn't UFC level. Like, I'm expecting him to end up in PFL in a year's time. Like, I'm expecting this to be his last fight. He's lost 1. He's gone 1-6 in his last 7 fights, I believe. That's it. He had 1 win against Brad Tavares, and that was like a lightning in a bottle moment in hindsight. That Weidman loss has really taken his career off the tracks, because if he does beat Weidman, and that ref should have gave Bruno Silva the disqualification win because Weidman was being real dirty with the eye pokes. But if he wins that fight, like, we're not talking about him getting cut now, but now I feel like Bruno Silva's career is probably over. This is the end of it. UFC's probably going to be making some cuts soon, like towards the end of the year, going to the next year. And I think Bruno Silva's gone to PFL, where he'll compete to become their champion. No, I'm just kidding. He'll compete there and lose to a bunch of people. It's not very good. Ismail, arguable if he's UFC level. I mean, he is, but is he? Just low-level stuff, and I thought Ismail looked alright. Bruno Silva looked terrible for the most part. Lost all 3 rounds, I thought. And I had him winning, so it really sucks for me, I suppose. Farid Basharat versus Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo misses weight by 10 pounds. Farid Basharat also misses weight himself. But I did say before the fight that Farid Basharat's wrestling is that next level up from Victor Hugo. Like, Victor Hugo has some good takedown defenses, but I just thought Farid Basharat was that next level above. So Basharat ends up doing what I said he would. Victor does, you know, stuff some takedowns, mixes it up, throws some of his own takedowns out there. But it's a real boring fight. Nothing really much happens. Farid Basharat does win the fight overall. Victor Hugo controlled. Not much to say about this fight. This was the most boring fight because I didn't watch this fight live. Went back and watched it. Honestly, one of those fights where you're watching it, but nothing's really clicking in your mind or registering. It was just really boring. And I hate both of them, by the way. They both miss weight. Both of them are poison to the sport, honestly. And Victor Hugo is a fat... I mean, he's a fat man. I mean, he's not a fat dude by any means, but, and you know what I mean? But, like, he should be a featherweight. This is the push that UFC should have to get him to featherweight. But the fact that he was fighting at featherweight weight against Farid Basharat, who was fighting not at featherweight weight, Did misweight himself, and still lost. I think he gets destroyed in the featherweight division, and I think he's out of the UFC in a couple of years' time. Sucked in, to be honest. That's what you get. I had Farid Basharat winning. He won decisively, I thought. It is what it is. Kennedy Nzechumwu versus Chris Barnett. And now, this is the fight that I feel like a lot of people were kind of laughing at. I don't know if they were laughing at it, but this was the fight that I had penciled in to be like a fun little fight for myself. Before, it was against one of the Tafa Bros versus Kennedy Nzechumwu, so I was really excited because I hate the Tafa Bros, and any opportunity to see them get KO'd is a good moment for me. It's a good time for me. But last minute he pulls out. Chris Barnett steps in, who himself was supposed to fight one of the Tafa Bros a few weeks ago. Gets this fight instead. It was a really energetic dude. Like, you can clearly tell that like his body cannot contain the excitement that he has inside of him, and it couldn't hear at all whatsoever. Because in the introductions, he's jumping up and down, and all of a sudden his leg buckles. In the moment, I don't think anything of it. I'm just like, okay, whatever, you know, let the fight go. The fight starts, and all of a sudden, he's just like hobbling around, not looking right, like leaning down to touch the back of his leg. And then the commentators are showing replays of him throwing a spinning kick. And apparently that's where he pulled his hamstring. I don't think so. I think it was hurt before the fight started. Just an embarrassment to the sport and to the heavyweight division that this is happening right now. Chris Barnett, I just want to take this time to say, Chris Barnett, no, first of all, I'll say this. Before the fight, I predicted Kennedy Nzechumwu to be too skillful of a fighter to get caught by any spinning attacks from Chris Barnett. Like, he won't get tricked into seeing a fat dude and be like, okay, so he can't throw anything. That mystique is gone. It's been gone for a while, but now it's like, everyone knows, like, okay, he can throw a kick. Just because he looks like a fat tub of lard doesn't mean he actually can't throw anything of skill. But now I just want to take this moment to say, Chris Barnett, you have the most unhealthy looking physique I think I've ever seen in my life. Like, if I saw you on the streets, I would be thinking, well, first of all, I'd be thinking, that guy's probably 60. Like, he's probably let himself go by this point in his life. But Chris Barnett's still under the age of 40, and he looks obese, honestly. Like, he looks like he has not taken care of his body at all. Doesn't look like he does any physical activity at all. Doesn't look like he does anything that requires any amount of calories being burnt at all. You're an embarrassment of the heavyweight division, and Kennedy Nzechumwu was throwing teep kicks to his fat belly, which makes sense, considering his belly's sticking out so much, so like there's less distance to cover. But yeah, a massive embarrassment to the sport, Chris Barnett is. I get people think he's fun and he looks goofy, and the fact that he can throw kicks is kind of enough to get people like watching. Like, if you're not sure if you want to watch the prelims or not, and you're already like thinking you got nothing else to do, you're like, okay, Chris Barnett's fighting, I know who it is, maybe it'll be fun. Nope. I mean, it was kind of fun, but mostly an embarrassment. Like, I can't show this fight to my dad. Like, I can't watch fights with my dad and be like to him, hey, check out the heavyweight divisions. Because my dad actually watched boxing in the 90s. He remembers, like, Mike Tyson. He knows Mike Tyson. He knows of him. He's like, the baddest man on the planet is the heavyweight champion. Mike Tyson was the baddest man on the planet. If I show him this, he'd be laughing. He'd be like, okay, so boxing's better. Don't get me wrong, he doesn't think boxing's better, but he'd be laughing at this nonsense. Anyway, Chris Barnett gets finished off. And by the way, the way he gets finished off, his leg buckles, he falls face first onto the ground, embarrassing himself. And yeah, that's it. Fat Tabalard he is. The winner, Kennedy Nzechumwu. Abus Magomedov versus Bruno Ferreira. Abus looks good in the first round, to be honest. Abus in the first round throws some kicks, body kicks, head kicks, high kicks, a bunch of kicks. Not clearly, but he wins the first round. Clearly. Second round comes around, Bruno Ferreira comes back. Abus Magomedov is tired, like he always is. Leave the first round, and Abus will be leaving his cardio in the first round as well. But then, in the second round, Bruno Ferreira wins. They have some good striking exchanges. Abus Magomedov was conserving his energy a lot in the second round, so it felt like he's kind of addressing what his issues are. Like, he'll rest in the second, go out and try to get the finish in the first. It just feels like too many people know about it. Like, anyone with pressure, like Chao Barao, can just put the pressure on Abus and not give him that time to recover, make him keep expending energy in the third. So in the third round, he doesn't have that energy back, and nothing can, you know what I mean? And then Strickland finished him off, which really exposed his cardio, because that was a mostly cardio related finish as well. Yeah, just terrible stuff. Anyway, third round, Bruno Ferreira drops Abus Magomedov. I'm thinking, wow, Abus has lost this fight. If Bruno literally just doesn't get taken down, he will win. Abus goes for a takedown. Bruno pulls a guillotine. He would have won the fight if he just kept the fight on the feet, and just like picked at him from a distance, honestly. Because you've done the bigger damage. The judges will remember that as the moment of the fight. they'll be the only thing they remember, and then they'll put it down for you to win the round. But nope, gets taken down by pulling a guillotine. Is throwing elbows off his back, not doing too bad, but then Abuse puts in a head and arm triangle. Taps out Bruno Ferreira, massive fumble. The fight was his to win. I had money on him, so I was really frustrated. Massive idiotic moment. Screw Bruno Ferreira for being an idiot. Anyway, I had Bruno Ferreira to win. I was wrong. Abuse wins. Is looking alright, but you know for a fact by any guy that isn't like finishable in the first round and has some decent cardio is going to just destroy Abuse. You know what I mean? Anyway, next up we have, I just shouted, Orolbai versus Mateusz Rebecki, and I should shout because this fight was crazy. It's hard to explain why this fight was crazy considering the number of total strikes was like 60 to 70 or something like that. But all in all, the strikes were real hard hitting in this fight, like really hard hitting strikes, trading massively on the feet. Orolbai loses the first round. I think most people had Orolbai winning the entire fight comfortably because he's looked so good since coming into the UFC, hasn't lost. Rebecki, we all thought he was like at a certain level in the division, like no one thought he was making any runs to be top 15. Orolbai was. But no, Rebecki just guts it out. Massive warrior. In the first round, they're trading massive shots. Huge shots in the first round. And there was a lot of scrambles in this fight. A lot of getting back onto your feet. Because a lot of the times they were getting dropped. Just getting pushed down from just the power of these shots as well. Like, they weren't all concussive blows, but a lot of them were. The first round goes to Rebecki. The second round starts. And Orolbai is looking a lot better. Looking better on the feet. Rebecki is tiring out in the second round. I'm thinking, I guess this is like a boost kind of situation. Or I thought like Orolbai would win this round, but just not in the way we thought it would happen. The fight, sorry. But no, Rebecki loses the second round, but in the third round immediately drops Orolbai. Drops him, is going to finish him. I think the fight's about to stop. The commentators think the same thing. Everyone's thinking the same thing. Real hard-hitting strikes. Orolbai survives. I think goes for a takedown. Rebecki stuffs it. They do end up scrambling towards the end of the round, but they both end up on their feet. They both trade like 1 or 2 strikes each before the round ends eventually. But yeah, I thought Rebecki won the fight. 1 and 3 are Rebecki's. 2 is Orolbai's, and the fact that he got dropped in the third easily gave the round to Rebecki in my opinion. Awesome fight. It's hard to explain why his fight is so great. Because here's the thing, I watched it twice when it wasn't live. I knew he already had won. So maybe I didn't get the same experience that a lot of people that watched it live did. But it was a lot of fun for me to watch. If I show this fight to anyone that doesn't know any of these guys, they'll think it's a fun fight. Real hard hitting. Bloodied up. Orolbai after the second round, his eye had just ballooned up. You know what I mean? It was just ballooned up. Rebecki was gushing out blood from his forehead after the second round. The eye looked really gross and ugly, by the way, in Orolbai. Just a disgusting looking thing. It was just there, you know what I mean? And then Rebecki, on the other hand, gushing blood. Great stuff. They both looked like they were in a war, and they were. I had Orolbai winning. I was wrong. Rebecki won. Shout out to Rebecki. Geoff Neal versus Rafael dos Anjos. Now, this fight is it's a fight that happened. It ended in the first round. It wasn't boring by any means, but it was literally just a fight that happened because of the outcome of it. Like, Rafael dos Anjos was probably going to lose. He got dropped on the feet a couple of times, got back up, was doing decent with his exchanges, but the fact that he was getting dropped, it just made him seem like old and all that stuff. And he is old. He's 40 years old. He should retire from the sport. I'm not just saying that as someone who's like, just hating on an older fighter. But I'm just imagining, like, apparently dos Anjos has the longest fight cage time ever, I think, or like close to it. But if you're kids of Rafael dos Anjos, talk to your dad. Like, sit him down, be real emotional, give him the eyes or whatever. I don't know how old his kids are, to be fair, but it can't be fun knowing your dad's going to have a fight, going to work, and he comes back beaten up. It feels like once every second fight. You know what I mean? Like, his kids are probably telling their friends, okay, my dad's fighting, tune in, make sure you're up for the prelims, with this, that, and the other. But then Rafael dos Anjos goes out there, and more often than not, unless he's fighting someone unranked, loses to anyone in the top 10, lightweight or welterweight. And they're not all brutal losses. Like this one, his leg buckles after he got dropped again in the fight, like the first 2 minutes. And I don't know how it happened. It was probably like a pre-existing injury that he had coming into the fight, or he faked it. He probably didn't fake it, but I don't know how his leg buckles from like getting punched in the face as he's falling. I get it, like he's falling backwards, but like his knee was like, you know, like it wasn't like he was falling forwards where his knee can buckle. Backwards, it doesn't. Weirdness. But anyway, if you're his kids, just, you know, it's embarrassing, and they don't want to see the dad go away for weeks on weeks at a time, only to lose, and then upsetting stuff. And maybe he would have retired if he got the red panty done with Conor McGregor years ago. But yeah, and it feels bad because Rafael dos Anjos can still beat some unranked dudes. Just the top of the division he keeps getting into fights with. I don't want to see it, okay? And hopefully, I don't know what's happening with Geoff Neal either. Like, I can't imagine him fighting up in the rankings after this. I'm guessing he'll fight like a contender. If Pirates beats Neal Magny, Geoff Neal's is next. It's kind of how they do with these things, like the two Geoffs. The two Neals. The two Neals, interchangeable. If you're in the top 15, you fight Geoff Neal to enter the top 10. Like, Neal Magny is a top 15 gatekeeper. Geoff Neal a top 10 gatekeeper. It is what it is. It's a good thing, little thing they have going, like yin and yang to each other. Anyway, Geoff Neal wins the fight. Ibo Aslan versus Rafael. I'm not going to even try and pronounce his last name. I'm just going to say this. There's a good chance this fight was fixed. I'm not saying it was. I picked Ibo to win. But the fact that this fight was pushed to the main event of the prelims by Dana White. And Dana White was saying, okay, we're expecting something big. And it's one of those fights that only lasts 30 seconds by the end of it. Was it rigged? Like, there's bigger names in the prelims than Ibo Aslan versus Rafael, what's-his-face on short notice. Like, surely, like, why have this be the prelim main event? And also, Rafael loses after getting cracked immediately in the fight. Within 30 seconds, Ibo Aslan is KOing Rafael. And Rafael is defending himself in that way where, like, he's not really defending himself, like, hands above his head. No intelligent defending, but it is taking enough shots for the ref to stop the fight, but also enough to make sure that he doesn't get any concussion or take any sort of damage that can prohibit him from fighting in the next like couple of weeks or a couple of months. Weirdness, it probably wasn't rigged. Just all the things aligned in a weird order, and my conspiracy mind is just like, how could Dana know? And it's Ibo Aslan. Why is he in the main event of the prelims? Like, no one's tuning in to see Ibo Aslan fight. But they might have for like Geoff Neal and Dos Anjos. Weird. I had Ibo winning, so I'm literally just saying how I see it, honestly. Nothing, in my opinion, is being too biased about anyway. Shara, speaking of rigged fights, it's not rigged, but Shara Magomedov versus Armen Petrosyan. Speaking of rigged fights, here's the thing, right? Shara Magomedov looks good. He looks good. Armen Petrosyan has one path to victory. Takedowns, wrestling, grappling. Doesn't shoot any takedowns, I believe. First round, pitter-patter on the feet. Shara Magomedov is getting the better of him. But it is close, but it's clear that Shara won, but it's close. You know, like, one of those rounds, like, clear, close round. Shara wins. Nothing too crazy happens. And in the second round, Armen Petrosyan is in the perfect position. No, listen to me, right? Petrosyan, if he's mixing in the takedowns, Shara ain't doing no spinning attacks. But Petrosyan decides no takedowns. Apparently, like winning, having a path to a victory is just too simple. He's going to trade with Shara Magomedov. Don't know why this attitude is coming out of Armen Petrosyan. But yeah, ends up getting... First of all, he blocks the spinning back fist from Shara Magomedov. Blocks it. Shara Magomedov then spins the other way. So he goes around and then immediately goes the other way with another spinning back fist. Catches Armen Petrosyan, drops him, KOs him out. One of the best KOs of the year. Petrosyan, you should have been taking... If he was just shooting some takedowns, he ain't in that position. I don't know why he did it. Maybe someone, like one of the Saudi princes, was like, here's 50 grand, just keep it on the feet. My son wants to see a fun fight with Shara. It's his favorite fighter or something. And Petrosyan obliged and got KO'd for it. Sucked into Petrosyan. Like, I had Shara winning, like a decision, but it would be close. I thought Armen Petrosyan would win a round. Nope. Apparently, Armen Petrosyan... The takedown, like he could have wrestled him. Doesn't wrestle. So good on him. I'm sure his family and his kids are real happy that his dad's only bringing in half the paycheck. So sucked into Petrosyan and his family. Screw Petrosyan. Anyway, I had Shara winning. I don't know, I'm so mad, but it just seemed like, well, because you know when you just see a fight, you're like telling your friends like, okay, listen, Shara's gonna win, but like he can mix in the takedowns. Like we're good about to find out some things about Shara Magomedov. Found out nothing. Anyway, Lerone Murphy versus Dan Ige is next. Speaking of takedowns now, Lerone Murphy actually does shoot some takedowns. Dan Ige shot some takedowns himself. It was a good fight for the most part. I thought it was alright actually. On the feet it was decent. Takedowns, wrestling, grappling. There was some drama to the fight because I thought Lerone Murphy was about to get fraud checked by Dan Ige. And one of my friends betrayed me mid-fight. He knew I had money on this fight on Lerone Murphy. Started openly cheering for Dan Ige. And I was like, what are you on about? You don't even have money on this. So I was a little bit distracted just because I was arguing with him. On stream, watch the streams. every single UFC event, maybe, if I feel like it. You'll know. Anyway, some striking occurs. Lerone Murphy wins the first round, first of all. Second round starts. Dan Ige looks good, is striking with him. You know what? It looks good. Like, mixes in takedowns, good striking. Wins the... I think he drops him, actually, I'm thinking about it. I think he does drop Lerone Murphy. And Lerone Murphy survives. Then we go into the third round. Third round starts. Lerone Murphy is doing decently and then gets taken down. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh my god, Lerone Murphy's about to get fraud checked. Please don't. Because if you lose to Dan Ige, you're probably not a top 10 level fighter. Let's be honest here. Like, Dan Ige is very much a test to see if you're top 10. He isn't the guy that you beat to be top 10. If that makes any sense, you know what I mean? But Lerone Murphy does decently, gets back up onto his feet, mixes in takedowns of himself, does a little bit better than Dan Ige on the feet, just slightly better than Dan Ige on the feet. Everyone says it was a clear Murphy round. I thought could have gone either way, if I'm being completely honest. Yeah. Does enough to win in the third round. Kind of uneventful, but I'm glad Murphy won. It is not the... Doesn't have the most booming personality by any means, but is a guy from UK, I think, who can maybe do something and be on the main card of a few UK events. I had him winning. I had money on it. I was happy. Next up, Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. It was a high stakes fight. It was a good fight, if I'm being honest with you. Like, it was a decently technical fight that wasn't completely boring to watch. The fact it was 3 rounds helped a lot. Rakic did alright in the first... He did good. He did good in the first round, threw some head kicks. Ankalaev does block the head kick, one of the head kicks. But some of the foot gets through, lands on Ankalaev, does enough damage in my opinion. Was a little bit busier on the feet as well. This is mostly a on the feet striking exchange, by the way. Not many takedowns occurring. Rakic wins the first. I believe Rakic has some like sort of kickboxing pedigree, by the way, which is kind of crazy. He's a good striker, but Ankalaev just edges him in the second and third round, clearly, in my opinion. The clear second, clear third. Idiotic coach of Alexander Rakic tells him that he's up 2-0. Makes no sense. The second round, if anything, is close enough to not go his way. I thought Ankalaev really did clearly win that round. His coach is telling him apparently it's 2-0. Stupid decision because Rakic doesn't go all out in the third round and Ankalaev just does enough to win the second and third. And Ankalaev does do that. Like, he's a counter striker. Fairly boring. Like, he's one of those counter strikers which will win clear rounds, but they'll be close rounds. The Adesanya special. Like, Adesanya Vettori is one of those fights where it's close, but Izzy has just clearly won every single round. That's Ankalaev. And it might work out very well for him because Adesanya did beat Ferreira. And I think Ankalaev has a really good shot at beating Ferreira, to be honest. And I think this no grappling, striking only thing that he has going, it's just a lie, to be honest. Like, I think come fight day, he'll be shooting takedowns on Ferreira. I think he will beat Ferreira. I will be rooting for Ferreira, but I think Ankalaev will probably be champ by next year. Yeah, Rakic doesn't do enough in round 2 and 3. Round 3 especially, when he should have been going all out, risking KO. Maybe not risking KO, but, you know, trying to find the chin of Ankalaev. Does okay. In the third round, they do end up grappling, actually. Rakic is the one that shoots. Ankalaev just stuffs it. They hug each other for a bit. And they let go. That was it. Ankalaev wins. Not the best breakdown, I'm figuring out this one. Khamzat versus Robert Whittaker. Now, call me a Khabib fan all of a sudden, because I'm flipping. I'm doing a 180. Robert Whittaker has come out, has not messed up his jaw, so he's still good. It's only his teeth that were pushed back. Apparently, historically, since a young age, he has really wobbly, weak teeth. And, yeah, that's what happened. Turns out Khamzat does not have the strength of the gods. He cannot bend steel to his will. Apparently, it was just a tight squeeze, and then Robert Whittaker's mouth just gave out because of his teeth. Now, I don't want to sound like a Khabib fan all of a sudden, but some context has been added to Whittaker Khamzat, and that context is apparently the fact that Whittaker's jaw isn't completely busted up. Turns out it's only his front 3 teeth that got caved in, and Khamzat doesn't actually have the power of a god that he can just bend steel with his forearms. Nope, he's human like everyone else, just a real tight grip, but yeah, Whittaker taps out immediately in 1 second to Khamzat in this fight. The fight starts off with them just exchanging leg kicks, and then Khamzat just says, no more of this, goes for a takedown, takes down Whittaker, controls him, gets the hooks in, but then Whittaker eventually finds a way to get out of it. almost gets back up to his feet. Khamzat takes him down immediately, controls him further, eventually gets the back, and then locks in a face crank so tight that Rob Whittaker's teeth just shatter, get pushed in, caved in, and he taps out within 1 second. And if I'm being honest with you right now, I don't want to say Rob Whittaker quit. He didn't quit. But if you're, I don't know, maybe it was obviously really painful, but I've seen people fight face cranks. I saw Usman fight the face crank. Was Whittaker really that worried or insecure about his teeth being messed up that, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure his jaw wouldn't have taken the punches the same without his front 3 teeth aligned, but eventually if he, I don't know what to say. Anthony Smith's teeth were falling out and he kept fighting, you know? I guess it's time to get veneers for Robert Whittaker, but Anthony Smith's teeth were literally falling out of his mouth against Glover Teixeira. He kept fighting. Is it that much more brutal right now? And Anthony Smith was getting beaten up, like, badly. Submission attempts mounted, got his back taken, punches after punches after punches on the feet. He was taking strikes. Yeah. No hate for Rob Whittaker whatsoever. He's still a G, still a Chad dude. Probably could have not tapped out though, now that I'm thinking about it. Hate on this video if you want, dislike it, I don't care. I'm just being honest with you guys. Like, come on, these are professional fighters. Rob Whittaker has a chance to get back to a title shot. A title shot. Khamzat Chimaev is the only thing between him and a title shot one more time. A loss would mean that Whittaker probably has to get like 2 or 3 wins at least to be in the conversation to get a title shot. But he's lost, and he's lost to a lot of top, not a lot, but he's lost to a fair few of the top guys, you know, like he's lost to Izzy, he lost to DDP, he lost to now Khamzat, and it's like, would he beat Strickland now that I'm thinking about it? I don't even know anymore, man. I had money on Whittaker. I literally made a video of its own defending Whittaker against the fans that are saying he quit. But now this information's come out that apparently his jaw isn't broken. Probably could have done a bit more than he did, I feel like. Let's just leave it at that. I had money on Whittaker. He loses. And Chimaev now gets a title shot, I feel like. Because Strickland has only beaten Costa since, and no offense to Strickland, but like let's get a win that doesn't involve someone that's 1-4 in their last 5 fights. Let's try to get a win against an upcoming contender, maybe Chao Barao, maybe not a Sanya rematch. That would be cool. Just don't think this is enough for Strickland to get a win. I think Khamzat leapfrogs him, and if he can fight in the USA, fights in March in Miami. Oh god, I've messed everything up. I had money on Whittaker, he loses. Main event time. Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. The Blessed Express comes off the tracks. Ilia Topuria, the hype train continues on. Only one of the trains were allowed to continue onto the normal passageway to their destination, and that was Ilia Topuria. He finishes Max Holloway off in the 3rd round. The chin gets cracked by Ilia Topuria, drops Max Holloway, finishes him on the ground. I don't wish Max went out cold, but I wish he did, because that would have added so much to Ilia, but it would have also stolen the KO of the year. Because a lot of these KO of the year lists, they usually go by moments. They're not really telling you what the 10 best KOs of the year are. They're telling you what the 10 best moments of the year are. And there's usually KOs. Max Holloway KOing Justin Gaethje is definitely the moment of the year, but as just a KO with the context added in, they're more aesthetically pleasing KOs. Like Shara Magomedov in this exact same card probably had a better KO than Max Holloway in terms of aesthetics. Ilia Topuria, in terms of like, listen, Gaethje's a great fighter, but he's been cracked by a few people now. Like, he got finished off by Poirier, Alvarez. Honestly, Oliveira basically KO'd him, dropped him, he went out, said he'd never been hit that hard. And then Max Holloway KO'd him. Max Holloway, on the other hand, has been dropped once in his entire career. And that was just like 2-1, like barely by Justin Gaethje, and he got right back up. Ilia Topuria puts him out, finishes him off, cracks the chin of Max Holloway. The fight was going real well for Ilia. Listen, rounds 1 and 2 are really close. It could go either way. You can go Ilia, you can go Max. I thought watching it live that Ilia did drop Max Holloway towards the end, but apparently he just lost his balance. So I'm going to give the first round to Max Holloway. Now the second round is where it gets a bit more iffy. This is a closer round. I rewatched it, and upon rewatch, Max Holloway was throwing a lot, so your brain just goes, okay, so Max Holloway's doing this, this, this. But how much are we going to... Listen, Max also cracked Elite Topuria with a good left-right in the second round. So it wasn't just volume striking. He was landing some good shots. Elite Topuria, on the other hand, did end up cracking Max a few times with good shots of his own. Didn't throw as much in terms of volume, but landed about the exact same, almost the exact same number of strikes as Max Holloway. I think if you're going to give a round to either of them, you can... I don't know which way I'd go. I think Elite Topuria has a good case for winning round 2 now, while losing round 1, and Max has a good case. And that's exactly how I predicted it. I predicted this fight. I didn't think it was going to be a KO, but I thought Elite Topuria would win 2-5, and I thought Max Holloway would win 1. But now, upon rewatch, that is what was happening, and then eventually Max gets finished off, man. Like, Elite Topuria was landing good in the second round. There was a lot of... Max Holloway was going for the oblique kick a lot, which is, I don't think he goes for it that much, but today he was, like, spamming it. Not today, yesterday. He was spamming it, like, in the third round, he was spamming the oblique kick against Elite Topuria, trying to hurt him, and then just didn't work out, though. And I'm smiling, because I'm just happy that Elite Topuria won. So many people were telling me that I was stupid. I know I was talking about Max Holloway is a legend, how can you pick against him? Elite Topuria hasn't been proven yet. What now? What now? What now? What now? Elite Topuria is the man at featherweight. He'll be champion for a long time to come. Like, his grappling is elite. His jiu-jitsu is elite. His striking is elite. His power is probably the most in the division, outside of maybe Lopez. And Lopez has some good jiu-jitsu himself, so that's interesting. I feel like if Evliev beats Sterling, Evliev versus Lopez title eliminator. In the meantime, Topuria versus Volk. I feel bad, because I feel like Volkanovski will get finished off, and maybe the fans don't want to see Volkanovski. But I think, listen, he's a dominant champion. He deserves the rematch. He'll lose the rematch, though. Elite Topuria is going to finish Volkanovski, and then the winner of Lopez, Evliev. And if by then there's not a new contender emerged yet, Topuria versus Islam, I think that would be earned by then. I'm excited. I'm excited for Topuria. I'm excited for Max. I'm excited for Max, actually. Yeah, now, listen, this is the best case scenario. Max Holloway has done so much in the featherweight division. If he beats Topuria, what's next? Like, Volkanovski quadrilogy? Is he going to fight one of the contenders already beaten? Maybe you could be like Max versus Lopez. That's a fun fight I'd like to see. But the bigger fights are at the lightweight division. Max Holloway's in the thick of it. Ranked number 5. You know? Let's go. Like, Max Holloway versus Poirier. Max Holloway versus Dan Hooker. Max Holloway versus Chandler. Max Holloway versus Oliveira. I think Oliveira, Chandler winner should be fighting Max Holloway for a title eliminator potentially. Just a lot of more fun to be had now. The best outcome... I'm seeing a lot of people say this is the bad ending. I feel like it's the good ending. It gives us the most amount of fun, hyped matchups going into the future. And Elite Topuria is a superstar now. And he can main event any pay-per-view he wants. They'll probably go to Spain. I hope they're going to a stadium. I understand that it's maybe not the best in terms of vibes and atmosphere if they're live. But if you're like me, who's watching from home, the sea of people around Elite Topuria as he makes his way down to fight Volkanovski, as like some Spanish music plays, and it's just like, I think that would go viral, and I think that's a huge moment for Topuria. Yeah, really excited. That was the entire recap. I've got 74 subscribers. Subscribe to me. Get me to 80, guys. Come on, let's just do it. Like the video. I'll see you guys next time.